Hi, Lisa. Great to see you. Hi. Cool. So, new week, new topic. This week we decided to talk about the happiness in the present moment and what's some details about the present moment we need to know about it. This is a follow-up of last week where our topic was non-judgmental, and especially also then in the talk on Thursday about accepting what is and accepting what is in the external world, but also what is inside yourself and how you are reacting on the situation. And we had this we touched slightly on the topic of today, and I want to catch up on this, that sometimes we finding us in a situation where we kind of think or feel so, is this person reacting like this, and if my friend would behave like this and that, and I could talk with her about it, then next time it would be better because then we would kind of avoid that we are finding us back in this situation. Yeah, and there you made the point, the important and valid point, that it's such a danger when we are thinking or expecting that we can experience happiness in the next moment, like when you haven't said it, but I would add it, like when all are behaving correctly, then we could be happy. And so let's start with this. What is the der Holzpfad, how do you say it in English? Like, what's the danger of this kind of thinking that we, when we think we always have to adjust something and our friends have to behave differently and then it would be fine?
Yeah. I think the major aspect, or one of the most kind of harmful beliefs in that, is that my happiness is contingent upon external circumstances. Yeah. This is the first belief that is questionable. I say, if this is dependent upon external circumstances, then our happiness is real touch and go, because external circumstances are always changing. And so the moment that I have found the perfect external circumstances is short. Mm-hmm. If I ever find it, it's short-lived, because something out there is going to change. So if I put my happiness in those external circumstances, I am bound to be disappointed. So that's the first thing. That's very important, I think, to understand that happiness comes from within, and comes from accepting present circumstances as this is what is. And this acceptance is coming out of the observing out of the third person perspective, which we also spoke about last week. And our ability to observe happenings from this third person perspective enables us to come in contact with this stillness, this kind of this space, this observing space, this perceiving space, where I perceive the situation, I perceive the judgments around the situation. And in this space, there is kind of an understanding that all of this comes and goes. The external situations come and go. My reactions to the external situations, they come and go. The emotions around those reactions to the thoughts around external circumstances, they too come and go. And the one thing that always stays the same is that observing. And the more I can come in contact with that simple observing situation, observing emotion, observing thought, observing phenomena, observing object, just perceiving, just this perceiving space. This perceiving is happiness. It's that happiness is maybe a not so good of a word. It's this okayness. Mm-hmm. It's this container. It's not, but the container is the wrong word too. It's this space of acceptance, of okayness. And the more we can observe from this space, the more this background of okayness becomes the foreground of okayness.
Yeah.
And that's where true happiness resides. True happiness can't reside anywhere else because things come and go. So if happiness resides in the external world, then it's not lasting. And that kind of happiness, that's why maybe the word happiness is not the right thing, but this things come and go, and all the emotions that I have attached to the things that come and go, they too must come and go, obviously.
Yeah.
So all of that is transient. And so I can never really find happiness there, not that lasting kind of thing. I can only find that lasting kind of thing in that perceiving quality, in that perceiving. And the more I perceive, the happier I am. And believing that this happiness lays, in it. I need people need to behave a certain way, or I need to have a certain thing in order to be happy. This is, projecting that okayness out, and is going to.
And also like to, instead of taking the power about the observing within you, to kind of delegate it to an external situation or to an external person.
That's
this? Yeah.
Kind of game to play, because I'm putting my mental well-being on somebody else.
Yeah.
Or something else. That something has to happen or something shouldn't happen. And then I can be happy. But what happens is, that's the one side, is that true lasting happiness, and it's a very rational thought. I can observe this from any angle, and it's a very rational thought. Lasting happiness can only be found in the observing, in the perceiving.
Yeah.
Because it's the only thing that always stays the same. And being there is this innate okayness. This is this innate happiness. And then if I go to the quality of believing that something has to happen or something has to change for me to be happy, I project that happiness into the next moment. There never really is a next moment, but we're using that now for this conversation. And this is a mental habit that we have, that we always believe something has to happen in order for me to be happy. And we get caught in this thought pattern. This becomes the way we live.
Yeah.
And get to the next moment, which is not really the next moment, but when that next moment comes, linguistically using that word next moment, when that next moment comes, we take this thought pattern with us.
Yeah, because we are so used to it, to think this.
Because we're used to, we project again into the next future moment and look for our happiness there, and project again, and project again, and project again, and project again. And so we never really get there. We never get until we see the pattern, and then turn to the present moment. And in order to observe the present moment, I can only observe the present moment from the third person perspective, because the present moment consists of external happenings and objects and phenomena, and my thoughts, my emotions, my reactions to them.
Yeah.
I can only see that from the third person perspective.
Yeah. Why is it that that it's such a extremely common pattern to think or to believe when we have when this and that will happen, and when we have this, then we will be happy?
It seems to be Obviously, it's very supported by our culture of marketing and consumerism, that you need to have certain things in order to be happy. We're always projected with states of being and things to have that you don't have, that you can't. And our whole economy, our whole society is based around wanting.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if it's really like the consequence of the huge marketing industry, or if there's something else why we have it.
Yeah.
Not we have it, but why it's so common, this thought pattern.
Yeah. It has to do with wanting. It has to do with, it's probably endemic to the mind itself.
Yeah.
Discursive, dysfunctional thinking kind of functions.
Mm-hmm.
I think it comes part and parcel with mental noise, because it's born in psychological time.
Mm-hmm.
We can think of the future. We can visualize things that are not. We have the mental capacity of creating situations that are not here. So I think this whole aspect of projecting into the future is a very human quality. We don't see this, or we don't believe to see this in animals to any grave extent.
Yeah.
Because they don't have as much time as we do. And the more we can use psychological time, which we do, we project things into a future, and then we want to go there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the trap.
Yeah. Like this could be, this projecting could be the trap of the wanting also.
Yeah, it comes from the wanting. It comes from, I think we also have a kind of a built in us, we move away from uncomfortable things.
Yeah.
And this moving away from uncomfortable things was probably very helpful when we were being chased by saber-toothed tigers.
Mm-hmm.
Simple life then, and we had very simple minds at that point. But the more complex that things have become, this moving away from the uncomfortable is no longer as helpful as it used to be.
Yeah.
We run away from uncomfortable emotions.
Yeah.
And this running away from uncomfortable emotions, which is not helpful, pushes us into psychological time. Because, if this were only gone, then life would be wonderful. Or if that person would just be different, then everything would be wonderful. And this becomes a thought pattern. And this thought pattern becomes the way, kind of the filter, as you said, that we use to view the world in. And it's not helpful. And it makes us unhappy, because happiness is always in the future.
Yeah. And so it could also be, that it's more from the evolution. That there it was helpful to get away from something uncomfortable and a danger. But the world has changed, but no, maybe not that much our thought structure or brain structure, or however I want to call it.
Many wonderful scientists, spend their time kind of researching the development of the mind. And it's very developed. It's very connected, of course, with the development of language, and all this was with the complexity in our societies. And all this has led to, I think, has led to this trait that we have is moving away from uncomfortable, which is not just a human trait. That's a biological drive. Away from uncomfortable has become very dysfunctional in our lives. It's so complex. And the more we run away from uncomfortable, the more we repress uncomfortable emotions, the more we do things to distract ourselves from things that we don't like. And less and less able we become to be in the present moment. And this thought pattern, unfortunately, becomes our filter. And that's why we can never really be happy.
Yeah, yeah. And why it's so common that also kind of all people around you have it, like why it's so, yeah, so common to project into the future and to be in this wanting.
Absolutely. We have to want. And it's helped along by advertising. It's helped along by our culture in general. The things that we're supposed to want and that we do want. But if we would be happy from things in the external world, then we would all be happy, because each one of us has purchased something or gotten something that made us happy for a very short time.
Yeah, exactly, because we are happy when we get something we wanted, but it's just not this lasting happiness. It's for a very short period.
Yes, we were happy because for that short moment, the wanting stopped.
Yeah.
Is not wanting. But not wanting is like non-judgment. We can't not want. Non-wanting comes as a symptom of being in the present moment.
Yeah, non-wanting is, yeah, so we have to get more used to be in the present moment, and then the wanting get less.
Exactly.
That's the message.
The wanting and the judging reduces the more time we can spend in the present moment.
Yeah.
This present moment, again, is to enter into this witnessing.
Yeah.
The third person perspective.
It comes from witnessing what did you say, the detachment? Sorry?
It comes from it entering this witnessing awareness, from entering into the third person.
Yeah.
And the more time we can spend there, the more we see the wanting, the more we see the judging, the more we can see the emotion caused by the wanting and the judging, and the more detached we become, as it were, from that, but not detached in the way of we don't care, and not in the way of being non-affected. But the more we just see it, the more distance we have from that, and we recognize the futility of these mental habits, and how these not even the futility, but the harmfulness of these mental habits.
Yeah.
And how we hurt ourselves and how we hurt people around us. And a more wholesome relationship to life begins to develop, and that is this wholesome relationship is much more rooted in the present moment, in this observing, in this perceiving awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. That was a wonderful excursus on happiness, and why do we have to look, or should look, for happiness in the present moment instead of projecting it in the future. And I would say we just take this whole is it a concept or the topic of psychological time for our next talk, to get a little bit more in depth on this construction and why time is just a construct in our mind. That's a whole topic for itself. But what we did get from this talk and what we've talked about is that it's such a harmful belief to make happiness dependent on external circumstances, and this is harmful because the external circumstances are always changing, and therefore the lasting happiness can only come from the here and now, from the present moment, and therefore to recognize the present moment and the happiness in this moment, we should use the third person perspective and see what is, and also to connect with this calmness and this perceiving observation quality. Genau. And this observing perspective, this third person perspective, this is what lasts. So when all circumstances are changing and all emotions and thinking are changing, but we can always go into this third person perspective and from there observe everything what is happening in and around us. And so this is the one thing with what we can connect. And the better we get, or the easier it is for us to get into this third person perspective, the more we find this acceptance of the moment, and therefore also the okayness. Yeah, and then it's also such a trap to put our well-being on external circumstances or persons or whatever, because it's also kind of that we give the power away, that we don't be ourselves responsible for our well-being when we say it depends on his or her behavior or on this object what we want to get. And yes, it's true that when we want something and then get it, that it makes us happy, but just for a very, very short time period. And then we are back in the wanting and want the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And so it's not this lasting happiness which we get from being in the third perspective person. A third person perspective. And yeah, and then this wanting is always or always takes us away from the present moment, because it's when we want something, we are directly in the future, like in one of the next moments, and this whole projecting, it's a trap, and therefore we will get into detail of this in our next talk. And yeah, at the end we discussed that non-wanting is comparable to the non-judgment. We don't want less when we try to avoid wanting, but we reduce wanting the more we are able to be in the present moment. And then it's kind of just fall apart, and we recognize it after time. Exactly. That's my summary of our talk today. And then I'm looking forward to our next talk. Bye-bye. Thank you, Lisa, for all the insights. Bye-bye.